about when you're holding, hanging with weight, it's going to be pulling you forward, and you want to make sure that you're, again, thinking about shoulders down and back, just a little bit. It's not quite as aggressive as the bench press, because if you can imagine, if you're pulling that hard, you're going to be popping your chest off, and you don't want to do that, because that's going to put a lot of strain in this position on your lower back. So what you want to do is just pull your shoulders back enough while engaging your core so that you're not accidentally kind of pulling yourself all the way out off the bench or using your glutes too much. Because the idea is, just like with the bench press, we're trying to conserve our energy as much as possible when it comes to testing especially. So you don't want to be putting, half of your energy into squeezing your glutes so hard that you're lifting your legs off the bench. Whereas you can be using that power and energy into actually pulling. So you want to think about just engaging your core enough, because again, the breathing does help a lot when it comes to the power that we engage in. And the same thing comes with paddling. We always want to make sure that we're engaged to make it a lot easier and a lot more stable of a unit to pull in and out. So when it comes to this, we're going to engage our core a little bit, we're going to set our shoulders back, and then from here is where you're going to be pulling all the way to your chest. It's very similar to the bench press. It's kind of the reverse, where you are still trying to keep your chest up. Because again, when it comes to paddling and when it comes to rowing, it's very easy to use our lats very much and not use enough of our upper back. So our upper back is consistent of a lot of different muscles, and when it comes to our lat, we're basically the kind of triangle that comes from our shoulders to the lower back here and connects. The downside to that is when we use only our lats, it actually rolls our shoulders forward, so we end up cranking the front of our shoulders again. And at the very end, you'll notice that sometimes your shoulders hike and you end up pulling, because that last little bit, your lats can't do that, so you end up using just the shoulder. So what you want to do here is you want to pull with your lats, but you also want to pull with the upper to mid back, those muscles that pull the shoulder blades together, so that at the very end, instead of rolling forward because you lose that lat tension, you're going to actually pull back, and almost like you're trying to drive your elbow kind of through a window behind you. You want to think about it with the shoulders down. So what that's going to look like here is you're going to start here. So grip evenly on both sides as much as possible here, just like before. Wrists as straight as possible, just like before. You're going to notice, again, we're trying to pull our shoulders back, but we're not trying to pull our shoulders back and up. So you want to create as much tension in your core as you need, and then you're pulling your shoulders back and pulling to your chest. And you'll notice I'm not rolled forward, I'm popping my chest up here. So pull shoulders back. Think about pulling your elbows as far back as possible, squeezing those shoulders down. When it comes to this one, it's very, very easy to notice. Oh, thank you. When it comes to this one, it's very easy to notice that a lot of power can come when you're pulling. So when it comes to doing things like as many reps as you can with both of them, a lot of people tend to get a little bit too excited. There's too much adrenaline before the first couple reps, and you'll notice a lot of smashing happening. You might have noticed, if you've done this in the past, it gets really tiring to smash like that really quickly. So if you're looking for doing as many as you can, you're trying to actually tap this as lightly as possible. You're trying to use the exact amount of muscle it takes to pull to the bar and not as much power as you can. Because if you think about similarly, if you're doing a 200-meter race versus a 500-meter race, you don't want to go all out in the first 100 meters because you'll notice you lose steam really, really quickly. So when it comes to that, you want to think about controlled power, light tap, and then come right back down. So again, you'll notice the difference here, and you'll notice the bounce in my shoulders when I'm pulling really hard. So this is a controlled tap versus, and you'll notice the bounce that happens. We're losing a lot of power, and our shoulders are going to get very tired doing this. It does. It's very uncomfortable afterwards. This one's a lot easier than the bench press because there's a lot less involved. The biggest thing is just don't let your chest pop up, and make sure you're thinking shoulders back and shoulders down so that you can pull open versus pulling under and rolling your shoulders down. That's the biggest thing.
Question, Mike, for now.